Emily Carter hadn't slept that night. The anonymous threat still echoed in her mind. If you don't hand over the dossier, your father will be next. The sentence was short but heavy. She read it over and over, as if a hidden clue might emerge between the lines. But there was nothing, just fear and rage. The apartment was silent. The city lights flickered outside, reflecting in the windows like watchful eyes. Emily got up, walked to the kitchen and made strong coffee. She needed clarity. She needed to understand who was behind this. She called Rachel. "Sorry for the hour," she said as her friend answered. "I need everything you can find on Senator Blake Harrison now. I'm already on it." "But Emily, are you okay?" "No, but I will be. I just need to know who I'm dealing with." While Rachel dove into files, public records and confidential sources, Emily re-examined the dossier. Something still didn't make sense. Why involve Jack Carter? Why threaten a retired football coach, even a famous one? The answer had to be between the lines. The next morning, Emily went to her father's house. Jack was in the yard, watering plants, as if the world weren't collapsing around them. When he saw her, he smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I got a threat. They said if I don't hand over the dossier, you'll be next." Jack froze. The silence between them said more than any words. "Dad, I need to know." "What haven't you told me?" He hesitated, then pointed to the porch. "Sit down. I think it's time." Emily sat. Jack lit a cigarette, something she hadn't seen in years. "Back when I coached the Titans, I was invited to a meeting. They said it was about security, about protecting the team from outside influence. But I quickly realized it was more than that. Businessmen, politicians, high-ranking officials. They talked about contracts, shielding, and how football could be a tool of influence." "The Federal Circle?" Emily asked. Jack nodded. "I was never a member, but I got too close, and that was enough to put me on their list. When I tried to walk away, the warnings started. First subtle, then direct, and now you're caught in it." Emily left the house with her mind racing. This was bigger than she'd imagined. Hours later, Rachel showed up with news. "I traced part of Harrison's network. He's linked to a private security firm that worked with the government and with the Titans." "Are you saying my father's team was used as a front?" "I'm saying there's money flowing, a lot of it, and contracts that make no sense." Emily took a deep breath. She needed proof, and she knew who could help. She called a number Nicholas had left on a note months ago, a secure line. A rough, cautious male voice answered. "Who is this?" "Emily Carter. Nicholas trusted you. I need help." There was a pause. Then the voice replied, "Meet me tomorrow, 10 p.m. Bring one person, and be ready." Emily hung up, looked at Rachel. "We're meeting a former FBI agent, and maybe finding out why they're trying to silence us." That night, Emily barely slept. She dreamed of her father being taken by men in suits, of Nicholas being silenced, of herself, alone, facing a hostile crowd. She woke up drenched in sweat, but determined. The next day, she and Rachel went to the address, an abandoned warehouse in Brooklyn. Inside, a man waited, gray hair, sharp eyes, posture of someone who'd seen the worst of the world. Emily Carter, the coach's daughter, the lawyer who poked the hornet's nest. "And you are someone who lost everything trying to do the right thing." He handed her a flash drive. "These are recordings of meetings between Harrison, businessmen, and Titans board members. They talk about contracts, data manipulation, and using the team to launder campaign money." Emily took the device with trembling hands. "Why give this to me?" "Because you still have a voice and courage. Use it before they silence you, too." She and Rachel returned home in silence. When they arrived, the TV was on. A sports news show discussed the Titans' poor performance, disheartened players, angry fans, rumors that Jack Carter might be fired. Emily turned off the TV, called her father. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, but I don't know for how long. The board is pressuring me. Says I've become a problem or you're not alone." "Dad, I'll fix this." Jack didn't respond. but Emily heard the weight in his breath. She knew he was tired and afraid. She spent the rest of the night listening to the recordings. Harrison's voice was clear. He spoke of shielding allies, controlling the press, using sports as distraction. Emily's blood boiled. This wasn't just corruption, it was systemic manipulation. The next day she contacted Thomas, the investigative journalist who'd been fired. He confirmed everything. I tried to publish, but they silenced me, offered money, then threats. But I didn't back down. And now, neither can you. Emily recorded an interview with him. No edits, no makeup, just truth. They'll try to destroy you, Thomas said before leaving. Let them try. I won't stop. Emily woke up to her phone vibrating. It was a message from Rachel. The press is moving. Harrison called a press conference. He's going to try and deny everything. She got up immediately. If the senator was going public, it meant he felt the ground slipping beneath him. She turned on the TV. Harrison stood before the cameras, flanked by advisors. His tone was firm, but his eyes betrayed tension. The accusations made by Miss Carter are unfounded. This is an attempt to destabilize serious institutions using illegally obtained documents and distorted interpretations. I trust the truth will prevail. Emily turned off the TV. She knew this was just the beginning. Harrison was trying to flip the narrative, and she needed to get ahead of him. Rachel arrived at the apartment with a folder full of documents. I got access to internal records from the security company tied to Harrison. There are suspicious financial movements, sealed contracts, and even payments made to Titan's board members. Emily flipped through the papers. Everything was starting to connect. The team had been used as a bridge between private interests and political power, and Jack, unknowingly, was at the center of it. We need to protect my dad. If Harrison sees him as vulnerable, he'll use that against me. He already is. Sports media is questioning his position. Some players are being pressured to speak out. Emily decided it was time to go public. She called a trusted journalist from the independent channel that had interviewed Thomas. I want to give an interview. Live no edits. Are you sure? I am, and I have proof. The interview was scheduled for that evening. Emily spent the day organizing documents, selecting audio clips, and preparing a clear narrative. Rachel helped, reviewing everything, making sure every claim was backed up. Meanwhile, Jack faced another tense meeting with the team's owners. The pressure was mounting. One of the directors, visibly irritated, slammed his hand on the table. Jack, we need results. The press is killing us. Sponsors are worried, and now your daughter is involved in a political scandal. Jack stayed calm. My daughter is seeking the truth, and I'm trying to keep the team focused. If you want me gone, let it be for technical reasons, but don't blame me for something I didn't do. The meeting ended without resolution, but Jack knew the end was near. That night, Emily arrived at the studio. Lights, cameras, microphones. The host greeted her respectfully, but with sharp eyes. He knew this interview could change everything. Emily Carter, lawyer, daughter of Jack Carter, and now investigator of one of the biggest political scandals tied to sports. Why speak out now? Because they tried to silence me, because they threatened my father, and because I discovered that football, which should unite people, is being used to hide dark interests. She presented the documents, explained the connections, played audio clips, spoke about the Federal Circle, about Harrison, about the pressured players, and about Nicholas. He tried to warn us. He was silenced, and now he's missing. The interview lasted nearly an hour. At the end, the host looked into the camera. What do you hope happens next? That people ask questions, demand answers, and that no one else is silenced. The reaction was immediate. Social media exploded. Hashtags emerged. That's Emily Carter. Federal Circle, that's truth in sports. But attacks came too. Fake profiles, aggressive messages, attempted hacks. Rachel reinforced their digital security. Jack hired private protection, and Emily, though exhausted, stood firm. The next morning, a new message arrived. This time it was a video. Nicholas in a dark room, looking worn but alive. Emily, if you're seeing this, it means they found me, but they didn't silence me. Keep going, go all the way. The truth must come out, Emily cried. But she also smiled. Nicholas was alive, and he trusted her. She gathered all the documents, all the recordings, all the testimonies, and sent them to a group of investigative journalists. Publish it, but publish it responsibly. Days later, a new article went live. The Federal Circle, How Power infiltrated sports to protect hidden interests. The impact was massive. Harrison was summoned for another hearing. Jack remained in his position. Nicholas was officially removed from the suspect list. Emily watched it all unfold from her living room. She knew there were still risks, but she also knew she had done the right thing. That night, she received one last message. You're not alone, but now they know who you are. She looked out the window. The city lights were shining. The world kept turning. But now she was ready to face whatever came next. Emily's interview had become the talk of the week. Within 24 hours, the video had millions of views. The impact went beyond politics, sports shows, morning news, and even influencers were discussing the case. Emily Carter was becoming a symbol of resistance and controversy, but with visibility came danger. The next morning, as she left her apartment, Emily noticed a black car parked across the street. The same model she'd seen 2 nights earlier. Tinted windows, no movement. She pretended not to notice, but her heart raced. She called Rachel. Do you think I'm being followed? Definitely, and not just you. One of our contacts said someone tried to breach the newspaper's servers last night. They're trying to erase traces. Do we have backups? 3, but we need to move fast before they try something more direct. Emily spent the day in meetings with lawyers, journalists, and cybersecurity experts. The tension was constant. Every call felt suspicious, every notification a possible alert. Meanwhile, Jack was trying to maintain routine with the team, but the players were restless. Some avoided eye contact, others whispered in the hallways. The locker room, once a place of unity, had become a minefield. During practice, one of the senior players, the starting centre-back, approached Jack. Coach, can I talk to you? Of course. What's on your mind? People are saying you're out, that the board already has someone lined up, and that outsiders are pulling strings. Jack took a deep breath. Do you believe that? I don't know what to believe anymore. All I know is the atmosphere here is toxic. People are scared. People are being threatened. Jack nodded. He knew the locker room was poisoned, and if he didn't act soon, he'd lose control. That night, Emily received an unexpected call. It was from the mother of one of the players. Panicked. My son's terrified. He said 2 strange men came to our house last night, dark suits, asking what he knew. He doesn't want to play anymore, says. He's going to ask for a release. Emily wrote down the player's name. It was the same one Rachel had flagged days earlier, linked to suspicious meetings. The net was tightening. She called Jack. Dad, we need to protect the players. They're being threatened. I know, but I can't prove it, and if I speak up, they'll say I'm making it up. Then let's record it. Let's document everything. If they won't speak, we'll show the fear in their eyes. Jack hesitated, then agreed. The next day, Emily and Rachel went to the training center with discreet cameras. They spoke to several players off camera, explaining the situation. 3 agreed to record anonymous testimonies, with faces covered and voices distorted. They said if I talked, my career would be over, said one. They showed me pictures of my family, said they knew where my sister goes to school, said another. I just wanted to play football. Now I'm afraid to leave my house, confessed the third. Emily watched the footage with tears in her eyes. This went beyond ethics. It was psychological warfare. She decided it was time to confront Harrison directly. She called the senator's office, requested A meeting used her name, her reputation, and surprisingly, was granted one. The next afternoon, she entered the congressional building with steady steps. An aide escorted her to a private room. Harrison was waiting, seated, wearing a cold smile. "Miss Carter, a pleasure to see you again. I'm not here for pleasantries. Senator, I assumed as much, so speak. What do you want? Stop threatening my family. The players, the people who just want to do the right thing." Harrison chuckled without humor. "Do you really think this is about you? You're just a piece, Emily, a convenient distraction, but you're playing with fire and fire burns. Then let it burn me. But know this, if anything happens to me, everything I know will be published, everywhere, in every language." The senator stared at her for a few seconds, then stood. "You're brave, but bravery without strategy is just suicide." Emily left the room with her heart pounding, but she didn't show it. She knew she'd provoked him, and that there would be consequences. That night, when she got home, she found her door slightly ajar. She froze. Her blood ran cold. She quietly called Rachel, who alerted the police. Emily waited in her car, watching from a distance. When officers arrived, they entered cautiously. They searched the apartment. Nothing was stolen, but the documents were scattered, drawers open, the flash drive with the recordings gone. Emily sat on the couch, in shock. They were here. They knew exactly what to look for. Rachel tried to comfort her. "We have copies. They won't erase the truth." But Emily knew this was a warning, a reminder that she was being watched, and that time was running out. She decided she needed allies. She reached out to a former law professor, now a federal judge, explained everything, showed the documents, asked for guidance. "You have evidence, but you need institutional protection. If you want to keep going, you'll have to go all the way, and that means risking your life. I'm already on that path. I just need to know how not to fall." The judge referred her to a federal prosecutor willing to listen. Emily scheduled a meeting, and for the first time felt there might be a way out. But first, she had to find Nicholas. She had to know where he was, and if he was still safe. Rachel traced the IP from the video message. She found the origin, a small town upstate. Emily decided to go, alone. She drove for hours, through forest-lined roads and quiet farmland. She arrived at dusk, a modest house, isolated, with covered windows. She knocked. Nothing. Knocked again. Silence. Just as she turned to leave, the door opened. Nicholas stood there, thin, worn, but alive. "You came. I said I would." He let her in. The house was simple but secure. Cameras, signal blockers, backup generators. "They're closer than ever," he said. "But you exposed them, and now they're retreating. For how long? I don't know. But what you did, it was brave and necessary." Emily sat across from him. "There's more, isn't there?" Nicholas nodded. He handed her a folder. "This is what was missing. The names, the accounts, the orders. If this gets out, the federal circle falls." Emily held the folder like it was made of glass. "Are you ready for what comes next?" She looked him in the eye. "I am, but I'm not going alone." Emily spent hours in that remote house, listening to Nicholas lay out everything he knew. Names, dates, amounts, connections. The Federal Circle wasn't just an informal group. It was a parallel structure operating in the shadows of official institutions. And now she held its blueprint. "If this gets out, it won't just be Harrison who falls," Nicholas said. "People from every corner will scramble to erase evidence, discredit sources, rewrite history. Then we need to be faster than them," Emily replied, "and smarter." She photographed every page, backed up the files on 3 devices. Before leaving, she looked Nicholas in the eye. "You need to disappear. They'll find you. I'm already preparing. But before I go, know this. What you're doing isn't just brave. It's historic." Emily drove back to New York with her heart pounding. On the way, she called Rachel. "I have everything. The names, the data, the connections. We need to build a timeline. Show how it all fits. I've got the board ready. Come straight to the newsroom. When she arrived, Emily found Rachel standing before a wall covered in post-its, photos, printed documents. It looked like a detective's war room. And now, with the new intel, the puzzle began to take shape. Harrison's at the center, but there are other heavyweights, businessmen, ex-military, judicial figures, all tied to the team, public contracts and campaign funding. And Jack, they used his name as a stamp of legitimacy. He never signed anything, but his image was exploited. And now they want him to pay the price. Emily felt a knot in her stomach. She had to protect her father, but she also had to expose the truth. Let's build the final dossier, a document we can hand to prosecutors, the press and the public. But carefully, no drama, just facts. Rachel nodded. The two spent days organizing everything, reviewing every line, every number, every recording. They consulted experts, lawyers, investigative journalists. And when it was ready, Emily took a deep breath. It's time. She scheduled a press conference, not in a grand auditorium, but in a modest room inside the newspaper building. She wanted it to be about the content, not the spectacle. On the appointed day, journalists from multiple outlets showed up. Cameras were set, microphones adjusted. Emily stepped onto the small stage, Rachel beside her. Thank you for being here. What we're presenting today is the result of months of investigation and courage from those who refused to stay silent. She began laying out. The data showed the timeline, the connections, the recordings, the testimonies, and finally, the names. The Federal Circle operated for years, infiltrating institutions, manipulating contracts, and using sports as a front. My father was exploited. Nicholas was silenced. Players were threatened. And now, it's time to hold the guilty accountable. The room fell silent. Then came a flood of questions. Emily answered each one with clarity and composure. At the end, she handed copies of the dossier to the attending journalists, then exited through the back door, avoiding the flashes. But the reaction was immediate. News broadcasts broke into programming. Websites published real-time headlines. Social media exploded. And for the first time, Harrison didn't respond. His office issued a vague statement saying they would review the documents responsibly. Jack, upon hearing about the conference, called his daughter. You did what no one else dared. I'm proud, but I'm also worried. I know, Dad, but there's no turning back now. And the players, they're protected. Some are ready to speak publicly. This will change everything. It will. And maybe it's just the beginning. That night, Emily received a call from the prosecutor's office. The federal prosecutor wanted an urgent meeting, said the material was solid, and if verified, would trigger a formal investigation against those involved. Emily went to the Justice Building the next morning. She brought originals, backups, testimonies. She was received with respect and heard. For the first time, a sentence that had seemed impossible days earlier. Miss Carter, the state thanks you for your courage and assures you that from now on, you won't be alone. She left the building with tears in her eyes, but also a quiet smile. She knew there was still a long road ahead, but she'd taken the first step. Meanwhile, Harrison called an emergency meeting with his allies. He was trying to understand how everything had slipped out of control, and more importantly, how Emily had gotten so far. She has support and evidence. We need to act, said one of the attendees. We already are, Harrison replied. But now we need to be more discreet and more dangerous. When Emily got home, she found an envelope at her door. No sender, no stamp. Just a handwritten note. You won the first battle, but the war is far from over. She stepped inside, locked the door, and sat on the couch. She looked out at the city through the window. The lights still shone. The world kept moving. But now, she knew she was at the center of something much bigger, and she was ready.